and welcome to the Johnston County Board of Commissioners Candidate Forum. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we apologize for the delay in getting started. This is a first for us and the candidates, so we would ask that you bear with us all as we negotiate or navigate this and are learning together. My name is Sarah Edwards. I'm the president of the Junior Women's League of Smithfield, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting volunteerism in the community through the effective action of trained volunteers. You can find more about the Junior Women's League of Smithfield at our website, www.jwlsmithfield.com. We are joined tonight by members of Delta Sigma Theta, the Johnston County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta, who are helping to host this candidate forum, as well as the League of Women Voters of Wake County. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Tamara Pierce from the Johnston County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta to introduce herself.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Tamara Pierce. I bring greetings from the Johnston County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta. Our primary goal is scholarship, service, and sisterhood. We are also a nonprofit organization focused on improving the community in which we live and serve. We are a global organization with over 250,000 members worldwide. We're excited to be a co-sponsor for this event and want to thank Sarah as well as the League of Women Voters of Raleigh for partnering with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Tamara. So we will go ahead and get started here in just a bit. The candidates for the 7-member Johnston County Board of Commissioners are running for the 4 seats tonight. Will expire in 4 years, so in 2024. The members of this board serve the entire county, and although there are districts, all Johnston County voters have the opportunity to vote for one candidate in each of those districts on November 3rd, or in early voting, or by absentee ballot. For more information about voting, please visit the Johnston County Board of Elections website at www.johnstonNC.com/JoCoNCElections. During the forum tonight, the candidates will be asked a series of questions and will have 1 minute to respond. Candidates, please keep an eye on the timekeeper, whose screen will be green when you begin to answer, yellow when 15 seconds remain, and red when your time is up. Please end your answer when you are signaled to do so. Members of the audience may submit additional questions via the form linked at www.jwlsmithfield.com. Members of the public already submitted some questions, which we'll get started with, but there is an opportunity to submit more questions as well. Questions should be addressed to all the candidates, not a specific candidate or a specific group. The order in which candidates answer the questions will rotate so that each candidate is first for a different question. At the conclusion of the question and answer period, the candidates will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. We recognize that not all candidates will likely have a chance to answer questions or respond, so that is their time to do so, in addition to any other closing thoughts they would like to leave us with. Thank you to the candidates for joining us tonight. We appreciate you taking the time for us, and we will go ahead and get started with a question from Tamara.
Thank you, Sarah. So again, the first question, we will start with Mr. King, go to Mr. Smith, then Mr. Godwin, and then Ms. May and Mr. Basil, and then Dr. Cohen. The first question is, what is your vision for growth and development of Johnston County? Mr. King.
Thank you for your question. First, we'd like to begin by saying that all the things we're going to talk about tonight seem a little trivial in nature, given some of the things that are going on in the county right now. Just want to say that the King household is praying for everyone that may be struggling with any issues that are going on in the community. To answer your question regarding growth, I've put forward a series of plans to tackle growth in Johnston County. First thing we're going to have to do is make changes in our land use plan. Second thing we'll have to do is implement a schools adequate facilities agreement between the Board of Commissioners and the Board of Education. And the third thing we'll have to do is have a real plan for open space and farmland preservation. in Johnston County. Going back to the land use plan changes, three things we need to do regarding that. We need to limit the amount of sewer we are allowing for new residential development in the unincorporated communities. We can do that by limiting each subdivision to 50 lots on county sewer. Second thing, we need to move to an average lot size of 50,000 square feet in the unincorporated communities. Those are for subdivisions on septic tanks. And third thing we need to do regarding the land use plan changes is move the fee in lieu of open space from $800 per lot to $1,000 per lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Over to you, Mr. Smith. Nope, you're on mute, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. It's good to be with you tonight. I think that Johnston County, we are very fortunate that we live in a great place, that we were going to continue to have growth, and we need to deal with it in an effective and efficient manner. I believe that we need to maintain Johnston County as a place where people enjoy the high quality of life that we are proud to call home. As your county commissioner, I will support intelligent rules and regulations that protect our quality of life. We will uphold private property rights, and we will allow long-standing farms and new developments to coexist. As a previous county commissioner, I was involved in increasing our wastewater capacity. I was involved in making sure that our landfill was expanded. We bought 527 acres to expand our landfill. But the number one thing we must do is we must build schools. We must provide the infrastructure to accommodate the growth that will come to Johnston County. As a previous county commissioner, I made a motion to have a $75 million school bond. That school bond passed by a 75% approval rating. And when I'm elected county commissioner again.
I apologize. Sorry. Thank you. That's time. That was your minute.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. My apologies.
That's not the things are not flashing up. We can't see.
You look in. Okay. Well, I'll make sure to give you a 15-minute warning on the next time. I apologize. Mr. Godwin, you're next.
Yes, thank you. It's good to be with you tonight. The board has recognized the fact that growth cannot be sustained at its present level, and we've already undertaken some changes to decrease the density in the rural areas. And more importantly, we're undertaking a comprehensive land use study as we speak, in fact, to bring back concrete recommendations, broad-reaching. Primarily what I'd like to see is 40 to 50,000 square foot minimum in the county, and push the density towards the towns, reserving sewer capacity for industrial and commercial growth to provide jobs. But the importance of keeping the rural spaces rural and open and supporting the farmers is indeed important. But the growth is going to come, but I think it should be pushed towards the existing towns. We've got 11 municipalities, and they all do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. May, you're next. Yeah, you're on mute.
Did you see that cat go? Yeah.
Sarah, I think you can unmute her if need be.
Oh,
You're still on mute, Ms. May. Give us just a second. We're going to unmute you. Okay, I think you're unmuted now. We still don't hear you. Is your headset on mute too, Ms. May? You're not muted on Zoom any longer. We still don't hear you. Do you mind if we go to Mr. Braswell and then come back to you? Okay. Mr. Braswell?
Okay, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and participate in this. As the chairman stated previously, I think our landscape in regard to growth is going to change. Currently, we have taken action to number one, to have a minimum lot size. Number three, that we're pushing planned unit developments closer to the municipalities, and we're going to further continue to and AR zoning, which means agricultural residential in areas like McGee's Crossroads and Cleveland. So with our countywide zoning, we've made changes in regard to how much we can do now. In regard to other issues that create growth, our sewer capacity now must be used for commercial and industrial in those areas. Again, it never happens, it never fails. But anyway, I think we're in the right direction. We'll finish the comprehensive land use plan hopefully by the end of the year, and that will allow us to make additional changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brazel. Ms. May, I'm going to circle back to see if we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Thank you. Sometimes technology is a funny thing, and like Commissioner Braswell said, this is a learning experience. We are at a critical crossroad right now of development, and we must work on a master plan. And that master plan has to be inclusive of the areas that are the poorest of the poor in Johnston County, the marginal people. It seems like the plans that the County Board of County Commissioners have is putting the buildings into the 11 municipalities because they can bring service. Well, that's what happened in Wake County, and now there is no county. I am concerned that as a farmer, you're going to restrict me from having to be in, say, micro. Right now, I'm not. I'm in the county, and I fall under the jurisdiction. I believe in the 50,000 program, and I also believe strongly that we must have a citizens board to help us develop. Because right now, developers are controlling our county board, and we need to stop that. And as a progressive candidate, I believe that we can stop it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. May. Dr. Cohen, you'll take the final response to this question.
Thank you so much for that question. I love being from Johnston County. Johnston County has been a good place for me to reside. And I am a citizen. I am concerned about the growth disparities in Johnston County. I think growth is fine. I think growth is progress. But I think the infrastructure is not in places where it needs to be. What I see with infrastructure in Johnston County is following the growth. And the growth infrastructure was in place 50 years ago. And I think it has to do with the highway system. We need to find infrastructure. If you place infrastructure in places where we need development, I think your growth will follow your infrastructure. But that being said, transportation is a big problem in Johnston County, especially for the economically depressed. It is difficult to get to where your infrastructure is. Your hospitals and your doctor's office are located in the areas where growth is evident.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. That's time. All right. Sarah, I will kick you.
Thank you all very much. The next question has to deal with our future generations. So youth, obviously here in Johnston County, will hopefully return here for a long time, and their education is very important. What will you do to ensure that our schools are adequately funded? We will start with you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. I will finish my answer to the last question. I just said that as a county commissioner, I made the motion to pass a $75 million general obligation bond to build schools. When I'm elected this time, I will immediately move to make a motion to pass a general obligation bond to build $100 million worth of new schools in Johnston County. School construction and school education on a per student basis takes up about approximately 50% of the income that our county receives from property tax and sales tax. So therefore, that is the largest and most important matter that the county commissioners are involved in. I think it's important that we have the 7th largest school system in the county and the state, with the 2nd fastest growing school, and we need to be sure that our per pupil allocation from the general fund is equal to the state average.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Godwin, we'll have your answer now.
Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can now.
Alrighty. Education funding obviously is very important. Of course, if you're in the arena, you realize you has to be tempered with reality. We've tried to meet the school board's needs as much as we possibly can. This cycle, we met their needs, and we've worked well with the school board. The problem I've had with the school board in the past is the cost of schools. When it costs upwards of $300 a square foot, and we see a charter school built for $147 a square foot, I think we can do a better job of building schools and getting more bang for our buck, getting more schools for our dollars. We'll all need to work together to arrive at that, and may have to look at some unconventional things like building schools that look like fire departments, for example, with metal skin. A lot of things in there that can be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Godwin. Ms. May?
Let's hope. Am I live? Yes. We need to prepare our students to compete in our global economy. And what this means is we must facilitate better equality amongst all our schools. We must have an equal playing field. We must work really strongly to get the children out of trailers and into brick and mortar classrooms for their safety. And then we also need to fully fund our pre-K program. The most important thing is we need to set up an agreement, as Mr. King has said, with our school board, stating we will fund you if you do this. If you do not do this, we will hold your funding. Because one of the things is, and this is so critical, I have a 5-year-old granddaughter who just recently moved, but she was getting ready to go to school, and the hoops that you had to go through because of COVID-19 are hoops that every parent has to go through. So we must be prepared to take care of the safety amongst our children.
Thank you, Ms. May. Mr. Braswell.
Thank you. The question was about future generations of education. $100 million is a lot of numbers behind it. I think as far as funding, our per pupil allocation to the schools are 5th in the state in the rate of what we can afford in regard to that. When you talk about future, based on what we've seen with virtual learning in classrooms and over almost 45% of the pupils in the current school signed up for virtual academy, we're not going to be talking about brick and mortar. I think we need to look at different ways to modify what we have. The school board always has an opportunity to look at year-round schools. If they want to talk about overcrowding, you can look at modified calendars in regard to overcrowding. The school district as a whole is not overcrowded. Now, everybody's agreed that we have community schools. I believe in community schools, and I think we have. We just built the one at Flowers Plantation. That's going to last for a couple more years. It's not encouraging, but so far this year, enrollment is down from the previous year. So as parents find more choices, I think you're going to find more selections in regard to school training. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Braswell. Dr. Cohen, it's your turn.
And thank you for that question. You know, I feel like the schools, the location of them is part of the infrastructure. And where you build the schools because you're following the growth. I would be in favor of an advisory board to study that growth problem that may be evident in Johnston County to establish where best to place the schools. Johnston County has a problem when it comes to some schools are overcrowded, some schools are underpopulated. When we build new structures and facilities, we need to be sure that we upgrade the existing facilities to meet the new demands and new trends that you place in a new school so that you have less boundary crossover. A lot of students who are crossing boundary lines to go to our new schools. I think if you make them equal, then you would have less boundary crossing of the students.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. Mr. King, we'll finish up with you.
Thank you. Yes, funding our school system is the absolute most important thing we have to do from the Board of Commission level. That is why I put out a 3-year, $300 million plan, putting $240 million into our classrooms, into actual instruction, and another $60 million into capital projects. You can go to my website right now at justinforjoco.com and see my plan in detail, also on my Facebook page. The $240 million over 3 years, that moves our per pupil number from around $1,950 per pupil up to over $2,200 a year per pupil. That is the benchmark number when you study the counties across North Carolina that are having real student achievement, real success in the classroom, because this is what this is about. More than we need actual schools built, we've got to have success in the classroom. We have 16 schools out of 45 currently that are low performing, according to the state of North Carolina. And that's due to the insufficient funding that we're receiving from the commission levels. We've got to get to that $2,200 per pupil level. And I've laid out a 3-year plan to get us there. 78, 80, and then $82 million by that 3rd year will get us there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Our next question is, so we've referenced this a little earlier in regards to COVID-19, but of course, public health has become a very big issue this year. As a county commissioner, what steps would you take to ensure the health and safety of Johnston County citizens? Mr. Godwin, I'll begin with you.
Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
You know, a lot of people have pointed fingers about we're not doing enough, but when the governor issues orders that we don't have any control of over, about the most basic thing we can do is support our Department of Health and encourage them and support them in every way we can. Specific duties that the commissioners can do beyond that, quite frankly, I don't know. Education, again, support for the doctors, nurses, the first responders. I think our folks do a great job in that. We support our volunteers, and we have a lot of volunteerism throughout the county. I think we have moved all the EMS personnel from various community organizations. We only have 2 left now. All the rest are under the county umbrella, and that will probably continue to move that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Godwin. Ms. May?
Thank you. I have over 40 years experience in emergency management. And one of the main critical things is budgeting. If we don't give the money to our health department and into our social service and to our emergency management, our first responders, we are not going to have the resources. Now, the county commissioners right now, you're right, they are following the rules and regulations set forth by higher authorities, including the President of the United States, who basically did not think we had a problem. Tony Braswell said something at a meeting about 3 months ago about the amount of people who were out and about, and that we failed a mark because people did not heed the warning. And it directly affects small businesses. We must be neighbors first, not Democrats, not Republicans. We must be Johnston County residents first, and we must work together to solve this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. May. Mr. Brazel?
Thank you. I'm very proud of our public health department and the job they have done in the last 6 months. Dedicated workers there, our emergency management. I'm very proud of them. The health department is funded correctly, and they do a great job under the leadership of Dr. Pearson. And it's been amazing through the cooperation of towns throughout. This is unprecedented. We don't have a do-over with a pandemic. A hurricane, we know how to prepare. This we don't. Yes, I think that I'm hoping that we can move forward through this, and we got to move forward through this. But in regard to our EMS, our emergency management, I couldn't be more prouder of them, especially in the events of this past week. And their job has required danger at times. And I personally know some that were in danger Monday night. But again, our public health department is fully funded. Our EMS is fully funded. And our emergency management is fully funded. Now, we talk about all these millions that we want to.
Brazel, your time.
Thank you.
Dr. Cohen, you're next.
Yes, thank you for that question. I am real proud of the health department here in Johnston County. I think they're doing a fine job. I'm on the same accord with Mr. Tony Braswell. But however, I think that the satellite locations might serve the county a lot more. Johnston County is a huge county, and to get to the health department for services is handicapped when you are economically disadvantaged. So transportation is the number one priority. All satellite positions in Johnston County to serve the citizens.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. Mr. King?
Thank you. So Johnston County will, over the next couple of months, we've already received over $3 million in money from the CARES Act legislation that was appropriated by Congress to help fight COVID-19. We'll be getting an additional $2 million set of revenue from that money, and the state Senate and state House has just voted to appropriate more money that they receive from Washington coming down to help fight COVID-19. So here's what we can do. We can test our way back into school. Getting the schools back open is the number one thing we have to focus on from the commission level, is working with the Board of Education. The Board of Education asked for $78 million when they first asked for their budget for this fiscal year 2021. They were given $72 million. We have an $84 million fund balance. We need to go back and give them the rest of the money and help them with some of the CARES Act money and see if we can test our children back into school. Our unemployment rate just went up 1% from last month. So until we get the school open, we're not going to fix the economic situation for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. And Mr. Smith, you'll have the final response.
Thank you. First, I would like to congratulate our health department and our medical staff all across the county, doctors, nurses, EMS, for taking great care of our county. The COVID-19 has led to a government shutdown of our economy. There has been tremendous suffering in the private sector. Students have not been able to be educated. And it's very important that we reopen our economy. Folks who are at risk need to stay home. People with conditions need to stay home. But the rest of our economy needs to open. It is not free. The suffering that both students and the private sector has because of the government shutdown, we must reverse and we must reopen our economy.
Thank you all very much. Next, we will move on to the budget. The county's budget for this year is approximately $250 million. Of that budget, about a third of it is dedicated to Johnston County Public Schools and Johnston Community College. If you are elected commissioner, what changes would you like to see made to that budget? And we'll start with Ms. May on that question.
So I believe our budget needs to be tightened a little bit. But one of the biggest things that we need to do is to work with each of the departments and fully fund them and teach and keep people here in Johnston County working. But like Dr. Cohen said, we need to also look at our infrastructure. And we need to look at our schools, like Justin King said. We need to fund transportation immediately. We cannot bring more tax money to increase our budget if we can't get people to work.
Transportation.
Excuse me, Mr. Smith, I'm speaking, and you're not
I'm
muted.
I'm sorry.
So, the funding sources are so critical in this. Again, I'm an outsider looking in, and I'm looking at the numbers, but then I'm listening to the employees who tell me, that they don't have what they need. For instance, our veteran service offices, very understaffed. We have a large amount of veterans, and that budget needs to reflect the needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to Mr. Thank you very much. We'll move on to Mr. Braswell.
Thank you. The budget that we just passed for 2021, we were in the mid of the COVID pandemic. We currently budgeted a 35% reduction in revenues receiving from sales tax. With the numbers coming in for March, April, and May, there was actually no reduction. Surprisingly, it was the same amount, equal to what last year's did. When we take, I'm sort of listening to all the money that everybody wants to spend, but we can only spend it at the burden of the taxpayer. The taxpayer's got to pay the bill, and it's not. And in regard to giving $8 million more to the Board of Education, they agreed on $72 million. Why would we want to give them more than what they agreed on? So we've got to do things, and so whoever joins, if I join, our first step in 2021 is to find a way to reduce taxes. We've got to do that. We've got a 7-year capital improvement plan we got to do.
That's time, Mr. Braswell. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Dr. Cohen.
Somehow or another I got muted. But anyway, thank you again for that question. I think the federal government has the CARES Act, which will allow money. I don't think we need to increase leverage more taxes in Johnston County. That would be a deterrent in this particular COVID-19. But we do need to tweak the budget so that we can continue to exist. I would be in favor of the government giving us another impact payment, economic impact payment. That would help to keep the citizens above poverty. citizens have lost their money, lost their jobs, and with that, they lost their health care and other fringe benefits. But I don't think we need to increase leveraging of taxes, but we may need to tweak where we apply the income that we do have.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cohen. Mr. King.
Thank you. So you can't change the budget until you change the way you pay for school construction. Of that $252 million of the general fund budget, over $40 million of that was debt service for school construction. So we have to change the way we're paying for schools in these gigantic bond referendums. Part of my 3-year, $300 million plan for education was to move towards a sales tax model, which was using a 1/4-cent sales tax, which is allowed by the General Assembly, moving the sales tax from 6.75% to 7%. When we do that, we can then reduce our property taxes by 3 cents to make it revenue neutral on the citizens. When you move to a sales tax model, that allows everyone to pay for schools, resident, non-resident, property owner, non-property owner. That's going to be very important as we get into this next reevaluation, because if history is any predictor of what's going to happen in the future, you're going to see another 25% increase in home values. And if you go do a gigantic $100 million plus bond referendum, you will have to raise taxes by 3 or 4 cents. There's just no way around it. It doesn't work within the financial model of the county. So we have to change that first before we can change the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Godwin, follow up with you.
Yes, can you hear me? Yeah, you skipped Mr. Smith.
You skipped Mr. Smith. That was Mr. King.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, you're muted. I'll unmute you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right. Facts are dangerous things, but we've got to deal with facts. The county government has certain responsibilities and the state has certain responsibilities. In our county, of the 78 cents in property tax, 36%, 36 cents goes to school construction and school per student allocation. That's 44% of our budget is used for our educational system. It's important that we understand that we can build $100 million worth of new schools, and we can do it this way. If you look at the new revenue stream that is coming to this county, if we're going to have new students, it's because we have a new revenue stream. Then if you look at the reduction and satisfaction of the debt services coming off in 2019, $12 million in debt service was reduced. We can build the schools that we need to build for our county. The main function of the county is to build schools and take care of education, to take care of the sheriff's department, safe streets, safe homes, safe schools, to take care of the county overhead, and to take care of the health department.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. That's time. Now, Mr. Godwin. I apologize again, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
You know, the budget is a very complex thing, and to cite any particular aspect of it is very difficult. All of the pieces of that puzzle need to fit together. We have a very competent financial team and county leader, a manager, and the entire board is very conservative in its approach to things. We fund every department as best we see fit in the overall scheme of things. Education is important, of course, and as Mr. Smith turned out, it's the largest single item in our budget. But court system, public health, social services, administration, all of those things have to come together under the budget. And each year we put together the best plan that we can come up with to try to address those needs. And it needs to be flexible. It needs to be open-minded. And we all have to approach it with the right framework, and that is conservative, spend the taxpayers' money wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Godwin. So we understand the direct correlation of the budget and the economy. My next question, I'll start with you, Mr. Brazel, is what economic development initiatives would you like to see county commissioners launch within the first 6 months of your term, if elected? Mr. Brazel?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. And first of all, last year, with the help of the fellow commissioners, we created I-95 corridor as a priority to us for development. We have Ashley Furniture down on one side now, outside of Four Oaks, Eastfield Development on the other side. We have done over $3.2 billion of economic development in the past 8 years. We have created jobs. Economic development is about job creation. We can create jobs for our folks in Johnston County, and hopefully that'll stop so many people going to Wake County and other counties to work. But our incentives have been and will be and should continue to be based on how many jobs are created. So we'd rather give up sales tax revenue and for jobs, and that's what we've done for the past few years.
Thank you, Mr. Brazel. Dr. Cohen?
Yes, a very good question. It seems that for Johnston County, it is a task to recruit what I call quality industry. And part of the reason for that is the legacy of the KKK sign. And I say that we need to do something to, I guess, improve race relations in Johnston County. We need policy boards that will discuss these type of issues that we have, basically with economic. Black folks feel marginalized, and big businesses and big companies and even newcomers to Johnston County consider race relations before they come here. As a Black dentist in Johnston County, I always got the question, how are you surviving in Johnston County?
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. Mr. King?
Thank you. So the very first thing that I will go to whoever the chair of the Board of Commission and ask to be put in charge of is a task force to deliver broadband internet to every community in this county. That is the absolute number one mission critical thing we must do for economic development. We have so many people in our communities sitting Goblin Lake Road in the Meadow community, Devil's Racetrack Road down in Bentonville, close to where I grew up. They can't sit here and watch this tonight. And that's a real shame. We're watching Wayne County and Nash County, two counties with budgets to half the size of ours, deliver broadband internet through wireless technology. We can do this so much cheaper and much more efficient than we could have in the past. And these counties beside us, they're just laughing at us. Goldsboro, Wayne County negotiated an agreement with a provider. They now have 1 gigabit speed in Goldsboro town limits. If we had 1 gigabit speed in Smithfield or Selma, we could create hundreds of thousands of jobs. We could be a small business incubator. We could have the next great tech startup come out of Smithfield or Selma. But until we take that step, we're just not going to have it.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Smith?
The training center that we have here in Johnston County has been a attraction for jobs. One of the things we need to do is continue to build the infrastructure, both through education and through our zoning and water and sewer capacity, to make sure that industry will come here and that we can produce the jobs that will help the growth of our county benefit our people. Then we need to make sure, as I said before, that both at the community college level and at our elementary and high school and middle school level, we need to be sure that we have the school system that will allow our students to have a level playing field to achieve the American dream.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And Mr. Godwin.
Can you hear me okay?
There we can.
Thank you. We've got an outstanding economic development director, and we have an outstanding workforce development center, and we've leveraged both of those to a lot of success in the last 5 or 6 years. I think that, as Mr. Basil pointed out, the successes that Johnston County has experienced in terms of economic development is the envy of most of the state of North Carolina. Can we do better in certain areas? Sure. We need broadband. I need it here at my house. That's why I'm here just in voice only. So I understand that. But what we have done in the past, we need to keep doing. We have an incentive plan that doesn't put the county at risk of losing taxpayer money. We just got a lot of things going for us in the past, and I think we need to keep doing that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. May, I will turn it over to you for final response.
Thank you. I think we need to have the most proactive county board of commissioners in the history. We need to seek new, bold policies to move Johnston County forward. But the first thing we need to do is get a transportation system, because we can bring new businesses here and build up our economy. But if people don't have the training and they don't have the way of getting there, it does us absolutely no good. And all we do is give the neighboring communities a place for their employees to come to, because the poor of the poor here in Johnston County, sections of Selma and Smithfield and Brogdon, Princeton, McGee's Crossroad, you can't get anywhere. We need to also make sure our schools are providing alternatives to college. Vocational schools were the way this country was built. The labor union was the way this country was built. Hands, painters, carpenters, bricklayers, professionals who get their hands dirty. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. May. Sarah, I'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Our next question is county government.
You're on mute.
County government is responsible for providing many different functions, among those public safety, libraries, public health and mental health, cooperative extension, schools, emergency services, utilities, social services, and economic development. What do you see as the most pressing need, and how do you plan to address that need? We will begin with Dr. Cohen.
Thank you so much. That's a very good question. You know, in Johnston County, as Dr. May has already iterated, transportation is the biggest hindrance for the people who are economically depressed. They are unable to get to the doctors in an easy fashion. They can't get to the grocery store to get food. In many cases, it's difficult to get to the better schools that people with ability to transport their kids. So what's happening is that the economic disadvantaged and left behind, and the county moves on.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. Up next, we have Mr. King.
Thank you. So I'll just loop back to what I said in the previous question. The broadband internet is the absolute critical piece. That's the one thing we're not doing for the residents right now that will literally impact everyone in the county. You know, I'm fortunate to sit here in a cul-de-sac in Flowers Plantation and be able to talk to you over the internet tonight. But so many people, especially like Chairman Godwin sitting there east of 95, you know, they don't have the luxury to do this, what we're doing here tonight. And that's just a real disservice to them when we're able to see it done in Nash County, in Wayne County. I mean, it's 2020. We've got to get with the program. The broadband is the way to go. Going back to the last question, I'll give you the second piece on the economic development. We absolutely have to invest in some public-private partnerships to bring industry and commercial buildings here to Johnston County. We've got to put down the infrastructure, the buildings in place. We have the available land. Wake County's out of land. The companies that need that type of space, they're going to be looking here. We have the best transportation network in North Carolina. We're going to have to invest. We're going to have to do what the Field of Dreams. If you build it, he will come. That's what we're going to have to do to help grow jobs.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Smith.
I think the number one responsibility of government is to provide safe homes, safe streets, and safe schools. So I think we need to be sure that Sheriff Bizzle and the Sheriff's Department is properly funded and properly has the assets they need to make sure that our communities are safe. And we've talked a lot about this, but the next largest responsibility of government is to make sure that every child has a chance to get an education so that they can compete on a level playing field. I think our agricultural department is very important because Johnston County is one of the leading agricultural counties in the state of North Carolina. We have an excellent ag building on 210. I think it's also important that our health department continue to provide the help we need as we fight COVID-19.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Next up is Mr. Godwin.
Could you quickly repeat the question, please?
Yes, sir, I'd be glad to. County government is responsible for providing many different functions, among those public safety, libraries, public and mental health, schools, emergency services, utilities, social services, and economic development, as well as others. What do you see as the most pressing need, and how do you plan to address that need?
It's very difficult to prioritize the most pressing need. I guess it could evolve and change from time to time, depending on the circumstances, the economy, the health crisis that we currently face. I think it's important for the county to be flexible enough and have enough financial backing and plans in place to be able to adjust and direct resources to the most critical area at that point in time. A year ago, we wouldn't have thought about the health department in terms of how we think about it now. But in those times when we are experiencing good economic development successes, then we tend to think about other areas. But a lot to be covered, but I think we need to be flexible and adjust and be prepared for anything.
Thank you, Mr. Godwin. Next up, Ms. May.
Thank you very much. I believe that livable wage is a key factor that we must do. And as county commissioners, we must first make sure that every county employee is living in a livable wage society. If Wake County can do it and Wayne County can do it, so can Johnston County. You know, you understand that we do not have an infrastructure in place to get people back and forth, going back to the transportation system for the economic development. But if we do not raise livable wage here in Johnston County, we need to get the poorest of the poor out of the poor. We can do that. We can do that with a guaranteed livable wage, and the county employees should be the first people. They should be rewarded, because I'm going to tell you, they are the hardest working people I have ever met in my whole career. And I give them kudos, because some of those departments are working in buildings that are unsafe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. May. Mr. Raswell.
Thank you for the question. My answer is all of the above. But basically, we have made a movement, and one thing I will agree with tonight with Justin is we started our broadband study a couple of months ago, 3 months ago. The pandemic really showed us a need for educating the kids in regard to remote learning, and there is. Most areas. I live in a district that is not properly served with broadband. Chairman Godwin lives in a district that is not covered with broadband. We can't deal with the carriers now because it is a financial situation to them. They're not going to expand unless they see a financial benefit. So we are doing broadband studies. We do have met with the folks in state, trying to get some grants, whatever we can, but we're moving forward with that. In regard to transportation, we have JCATs out there. In regard to the building that's not safe for people to work in, we have a capital improvement plan that we're working on that. We can't snap our fingers overnight.
Thank you, Mr. Braswell. That's the time.
All right. Thank you. And so our final submitted question for tonight deals with climate change. Mr. Smith, you will be the first to respond to this. So what is your perspective on how Johnston County commissioners can address climate change?
I think climate change has been a phenomenon that we have dealt with for many years in our world. And I think that our federal government is the agency that primarily is involved with dealing with those issues. I think on the county level, we need to be concentrating on delivering the most effective and efficient government to our people. And I think we have very little effect on that issue.
Thank you. And Mr. King, my apologies. I just realized I skipped you.
Okay, for me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so regarding climate change, I will push for the creation of a chief sustainability officer position within county government. Our county government is large. It does a lot of things. We need someone in there to really analyze what we're doing to see what our real impact on the environment is, our carbon impact we're doing from all of our landfill usage, from all the developing we're doing, and really study and help us analyze the decision makers. What can we do? Where can we lower our emissions? If you don't believe in climate change, you don't have to look much further than what happened in Four Oaks Monday evening. It rained 11 inches on a Monday night. You know, I've been here my whole life. I don't ever recall it raining 11 inches in, somewhere like Four Oaks. There was no storm involved with that. We're seeing these type of tremendous thunderstorms just coming and sitting over our areas for hours and hours on end, especially in the Bentonville community. So climate change is here and we've got to deal with it. And making that step towards putting in a sustainability officer is the first step towards realizing we have a problem.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Godwin?
Thank you. I think it's incumbent upon every citizen to be good stewards of God's creation and the things that we're charged with looking after. I'm an outdoorsman. I enjoy the outdoors. And I think we all need to be cognizant of our impact on the streams and the water source and that sort of thing. As far as climate change, yeah, it's changing. I see it every day. And it's changed a lot in my 7 decades. But I do not subscribe to the left's thinking that it's mankind's doing. It's been cyclical over eons, and it will continue to be, I suspect. One volcano can burp more emissions into the air than mankind could make in months, maybe years. It's real, but I don't think it's man-made, and we've got more important things here in Johnston County to be concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Godwin. Dr. May?
Thank you. This is where Ted and I disagree 100%. I'm a strong believer in clean air and clean water, and I'm a strong believer that Johnston County needs to go to be at least 50% of our electric coming from green sources. The green industry will help bring quality, high-paying jobs. It'll help us reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, which over 80% is ridiculous. We need to be below by 2030. We need to be below the 2005 rate. We need to make sure, out of the last 15 to 16 hottest years were during the last century. That should tell you something, guys. I live on a rural farm about a mile from Ted, and I can see the change. I can see the change in the animals, the change in, and guys, we need to do something, not only here in Johnston County, but across the land. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. May. Mr. Brazel?
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, thank you for the question, and I have to agree with Senator Smith in the fact that it's more on a federal level in regard to how we control the environment. I think what how we can control it is by our water runoff watershed programs, to eliminate non-pervious and pervious areas in regard to storm wastewater. Our environmental health folks and our public utilities people, we have a wastewater program in effect that all developers have to follow in regard to that. There's no more 50-year or 100-year storms. Now it comes in bunches. Things are going to happen when we have an event like Monday night, and we can hope and pray that it doesn't happen again. But I think we're more prepared now if it does happen again. We've had so many firsts here in Johnston County in the last few years. First of this, first of that. And I think how we react and how we move forward is the answer to what we should do.
Thank you, Mr. Braswell. And Dr. Cohen, you'll have our final response to this question.
Okay, thank you so much. That's a good question again. Environmental and climate change is very evident. In North Carolina, we had an earthquake, a tornado, and a hurricane in 1 week. And out west of the United States, they were suffering with fires. And most of it is as the results of climate change. So we need to rethink and think green. And the federal government needs to put things in place so that we can change our way of existing. We need to get out of the automobile and start using bicycles, sidewalks, walk, ride, even mass bus transportation would be helpful. Urban and taxi cabs, and let's get something in place so that we can put more people in the cars. I go up down the road and I see one person, including myself, to the automobile. And let's stop cutting down so many trees and not replacing them.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. That's time. Okay, the final question of the night for our candidates will be a question they have a little bit longer to answer. Candidates, you will have 2 minutes to answer this question. You will get the same yellow card warning at 15 seconds and red card when your time is up. The final question is, what are your top 3 priorities for Johnston County that you will address if elected as County Commissioner? Mr. King, we will start with you.
Okay, thank you. Number one, we have to address our land use plan. Several things that I mentioned earlier tonight. We have to control the amount of density we're allowing in new residential projects in our unincorporated communities. We have the 3rd highest population of residents living in unincorporated communities of any county in North Carolina. That is a planning failure. If you want 20 more years of what you had the previous 20 years with planning, then you're going to get it, but it's going to be even worse because we're going to see over 100,000 people moving here by 2040. The demographers have already told us this. So if we don't get our arms and our hands and everything we've got around the planning, we're going to have a major problem on our hands, which is going to be more sewer. We've got to stop building the town of Johnston County. You hear Butch Lauder say that a lot. We can't keep building the city of Johnston County. So we have to make just tremendous changes in our land use plan. No more 20 years like we did the past 20 years. Number 2, we've got to fund our school system. Our school system is not making the grade right now. It needs better management and it needs more money. I'm committed to providing the money. Our leadership we now have in place with Dr. Bracey, I'm 100% behind him. I think he's the guy for the job. And number 3, we've got to get the infrastructure part right. That is the broadband. That is number 1 critical. If you don't believe in that after this pandemic, then I don't know what I can do for you. We saw 100 students de-enroll from the Meadows School over the summer. And I'm 99% sure that's because they don't have access to internet. So it's real hard to do teleschool when you don't have internet. So those are my top 3 priorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. King. Mr. Smith, it's your turn.
Thank you. My top priority is what I believe is the most important thing with this election. In this election, we're going to have to decide, not only as a country, but as a county, what are we going to be? Are we going to be the Johnston County that we've all loved and enjoyed with conservative government, freedom, low taxes, good infrastructure? Is that what we're going to be? Or are we going to be and also as public safety? Or are we going to be the county that the progressive Democrats want, which the Democratic Party does not stand for public safety, wants more government, wants more taxes? Is that the type of government we want in Johnston County? Or do we want the government that we've had for the past 20 years, which has made Johnston County a great place to live? This is a critical election, and people need to decide what type of society and what type of government we're going to have. The second thing we need to do is we need to have a comprehensive plan. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. We as a county need to know where we're going in many areas, whether it's our development plan and rules, whether it's our school system and how we're going to fund that, or whether it's how we're going to prioritize our budget to make sure that we do the things we need to do and don't do the things that are not necessary. And the third most important thing is we need to make sure that Sheriff Steve Bizzle and his department has the funds that they need to make sure that our county and our people remain safe and secure. Safe streets, safe homes, and safe schools. The number one priority of government.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Godwin, you're next.
Thank you. I think if you ask 10 people on the street what's the number one priority that Johnston County ought to deal with, you'd probably get at least 8 different answers. In my own case, I think the planning, the land use plan that was mentioned earlier is a real critical thing. And also a capital improvement plan for infrastructure, for sewer, water, as well as our other capital plans. We've got to build some DSS offices. We've got to build some more court space, a lot of those things. But it's difficult to pick out 1, 2, 3, 10 things that need priority. They all need priority. I think the real key, though, is what Mr. Smith said, and that is when you wrap the approach to government in a conservative fashion and you're sensitive to the taxpayers' needs and also the taxpayers' ability to pay, and treat that money as if it's your money out of your pocket and not just spending somebody else's money. I think that's the important way to approach government. Abraham Lincoln said, government should not do for a man what a man should do for himself, and I firmly believe that. Certain things the government has to do, but sometimes creating a nanny state is not what I'm all about. If you want a nanny state, then don't vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Godwin. Up next is Ms. May.
So I think my 3 things are equity and equality as one, which I think every person in Johnston County, regardless of where you are from, regardless of your age, your color, your gender, your sexual orientation, I think every citizen is entitled to the same thing. I take offense when you pick on the left side and call all Democrats liberal. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm not as liberal as some people. I'm a progressive. I believe in moving things forward. I believe strongly that we must do this. We must work on our economic development and the first thing is to make sure we have public transportation. JCAT's a great system. It could be expanded to have routes so every citizen can actually use it, not just the disabled and the seniors. The other thing about transportation is I'm a veteran. I'm a disabled American veteran. Dr. Cohen, Ted Godwin, we're veterans. And I hope I didn't miss anybody, but we are really relying a lot on transportation to get back and forth. And based upon service, I put my hand on the Bible, raised my right hand, and signed a check that said, I would give you my life. That should definitely be rewarded. We should not have the worst veterans in America. We should have homeless living on 42 and 40. We need to do this. And the last thing that's important, and I think it's really important, is our education system. You know, guys, we're behind building schools. We're behind educating our students. Like Mr. King said, you know, I can't believe how many people in the Meadow community left because they didn't have access to a computer, because they didn't have Wi-Fi. We need broadband. Justin is right. I live a mile from Ted, and I have broadband, but he doesn't. That's not fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. May. Mr. Braswell, you're next.
Thank you. First of all, let me say I enjoy living in Johnston County. I've lived here many years. I was born here, a son of a tenant farmer, the seventh son of the on a sharecropper, and I've seen Johnston County in the late days, and I've seen Johnston County now. Johnston County is a great place. Johnston County has very, very dedicated employees, dedicated people, and they make us proud every day. This pandemic has created a lot of suffering on our citizens. Unfortunately, we as government can't enter into private agreement with citizens to give them money. We can't enter into private agreement to businesses to give them money. So small business, and I'm an owner of a small business, we have suffered through this. We have suffered, and similar businesses to mine has suffered. But the first thing we need to do is actually look at, and if we got excess fund balance, which I believe we do, we need to look at a tax break or tax relief for our citizens since they've gone through what they've been. Second, we needed to, I want to see us complete the comprehensive land use plan. We should let the contract for that in October for the study. And that will involve a lot of individuals from all sectors way in life to have their input into that plan. And another thing no one has mentioned tonight is we need to continue forward with our recreation programs and recreation parks. We recently purchased land in the Cleveland community for a park. We've got to look further in areas, and especially in the district in which I serve. There's no county parks. We have to rely on the city, the school, etc. But we need more open space, and we need more activities for our citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Braswell. That's time.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Dr. Cohen, you are our next candidate.
Okay. Thank you so much again for that question. You know, my first priority would be transportation. I think transportation is number one on my list. My reason for saying that, when I was growing up and walking everywhere that I needed to go, it was difficult to get to the grocery store, which was 10 miles away. My parents were sharecroppers. Without transportation, we could not escape getting off the farm and getting into an urban environment. And it was with transportation that I was able to eventually finish high school and go off to college and become the first generation graduate in my family. And it was because we were able to purchase an automobile and was able to move about when we needed to in order to get the essentials of life. The next priority is healthcare. There are some city limits or municipalities in Johnston County that does not have a dentist. And I'm not sure if they have a physician. We need to recruit healthcare personnel to Johnston County. And then food distribution. I know we want to keep Johnston County as an agriculture county. So we're going to need to invest in new technologies so that we will not use up the land like urban farming, backyard and community gardens is something that we can invest in. Rooftop gardening, greenhouses, vertical farms. This is all technology that's coming in the future. Indoor farms. If we use this new technology, it will also help with cutting down trees and taking trees out and not replacing them with the urban growth is another thing that affects the environment.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. And those are the last of our questions for the night. At this point, we will move on to closing statements from the candidates, and we will begin with Mr. Godwin.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm running for re-election in November. I have tried to act with the appropriate decorum and professionalism that the office requires and demands. I have lived within my conservative view, the values that my daddy taught me. I hope the citizens of Johnston County realize that. I haven't always been right, but I've always done what I thought was right. And I will continue to do that, regardless of how the vote goes. I have lost some 6-1 votes, and that's okay. I stood for what I believed in. I think it's important not to be an oddball and just to make a point, don't get anything done. You got to be effective and you got to be pragmatic. But I look forward to running again and look forward to serving again. I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Godwin. Ms. May.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizations behind this because this is a way for our citizens to get to know us. And normally we would be in person where the citizens could ask us great questions even after. So I'm available. You can contact me through my website at wendylma.com. I am a faith leader. I am a veteran. I have been a public servant. And I have broad ideas that I believe will bring unity to our county. And it will help us with racial injustices. It'll help us bring the poor out of the poor. It will help us bring food to everyone. It will help us educate our children. But most of all, the difference between Ted Godwin and I really has not that much. One of the things is I believe doing for the least of them is doing for my God. And therefore, I've committed myself to the poorest of the poor, the marginalized voter, and people like me. I would be the first LGBTQ person to ever be elected, the first Native American elected. And look around, ladies and gentlemen, please look around. Look and see, our board is 7 men, all white, all Republican. Look around, because if that's what our county looks like, I'm sorry, I'm Native American, I'm a person of color. I don't see anyone that looks like me on that board. Thank you. Please vote for me.
Thank you, Ms. May. Mr. Braswell. Mr. Braswell, are you able to unmute yourself? Hold on just a second, I'll try it. Okay, how's that?
Okay, that should be fine. Okay, again, thanks to the organization for allowing us to come forward and address the questions that are important to not only the makers of the question, but also to the citizens of Johnston County. I am also a veteran. I am a Vietnam disabled veteran, and I'm proud of that fact. I'm proud that Senator Smith is a veteran. I'm proud of Ted Godwin. Ms. May, I'm proud of you serving. I think we have the best service office in the state. I would like to say this. I've been part of a lot of progress in Johnston County. When you choose public service, you go into public service, you should have a desire to serve the public. I have 237,000 bosses. I serve all the people. There's a difference between getting elected and governing. In governing, when someone comes on, I don't question who they are, if they're Democrat or Republican. Quite frankly, I don't care. What I care about is the problems they have. I believe that we are in the right direction in Johnston County. Also, I'm a very conservative. I don't feel that throwing money at anything is going to solve the problem. I think people solve the problems rather than all the money. I think we have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers in this county. I think we have to make wise decisions. There's a report card every year, every 4 years. So if we didn't do a great job and folks don't like us, then we will be removed by the voters. But I currently believe everybody has confidence in the direction that the Johnston County Board of Commissioners are going or want to go. We have a great county. We have great citizens. And I would ask for your vote and support come
Thank you,
November
Mr.
the
Braswell.
1st.
Dr. Cohen, you're next.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak again. Let me first say that I am also a veteran of the United States Navy, and I don't want that to be downplayed. But I bring to the table 4 decades of experience as a dentist, coming here in 1976. I also have served on many policy committees and boards, and I've seen how government works. I want to be part of that ability to contribute to the operation of the government and decision making. I have served in communication positions, and so I can speak to most people, and I will listen to all the people together what is best for or what the people want. I have served and presently serving as president of Johnston County branch of NAACP, so I have heard some of the issues that you may not have heard of, and they are many. And sometimes when you listen to the complaints of our people, they don't trust government because they don't have a seat at the table. So we need to be able to move forward and let Johnston County look like the citizens of Johnston County. Let that board represent the citizens. So I ask for your vote in November to take a seat on the Johnston County Board of Commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. Mr. King, you're next.
Thank you. Let me begin by thanking the Junior League of Smithfield, the League of Women Voters, and the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated for hosting this event. Thank you to all the candidates for participating, and a special thanks to the thousands of voters that will watch this forum. 10 years ago, I began building my insurance and financial services practice from scratch with 0 policyholders to now proudly servicing over 1,000 households throughout North Carolina. My business has been built on a foundation of delivering a service experience for my clients that I believe is best in class. I will adopt that same customer-centric approach to working on your behalf as your county commissioner. Whether it is deciding what level of funding to provide our local school system, how to responsibly pay for school construction, the best path for deploying broadband internet to our underserved communities, or implementing a long-term growth management plan that preserves open space and farmland for future generations, I will always do what is in the best interest of you. As we begin to make very important decisions about what type of county we want to have 20 years from now, it is important to allow new voices into that equation. I am excited about the future of Johnston County, and I stand ready to go to work for you. Put me to work on your behalf, just as the thousands of my clients have done over the past 10 years. You will not regret your decision. You can find out more about my campaign by visiting my website at justinforjoco.com or on Facebook at justinforjoco. Good night, and may God bless the people of Johnston County.
Thank you, Mr. King. And finally, we will have Mr. Smith's response.
Thank you. I want to also say that I'm proud to be a veteran who served 4 years in the Vietnam War as a JAG officer, a captain in the JAG Corps. Let me also say that I am proud that for the past 50 years, I have worked to make Johnston County a great place for people to live. I've created jobs, and I've created great places for people to live. I can tell you that Johnston County was not built on fear. Johnston County was built on courage. It was built on imagination, and it was built on unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. That's what we need to do moving forward. And the job at hand for Johnston County is to have a vision that will make our county as good a place to live for our children in the future as it has been for us in the past. My vision is I have 5 things. If you want to believe in these things, 5 visions, I ask you to vote for me. Number 1, prioritize public safety, safe streets, safe homes, safe schools. Number 2, I believe that all Johnston County students need to get an education because that levels the playing field. To do so, we need to build schools, and we need to have per student funding that's equal to the state average in North Carolina. We need to have quality growth that maintains Johnston County as a great place to live. We need to do that through a comprehensive plan to make sure that the growth occurs in the right place, as I have done as a builder, and to make sure that we preserve our rural area. We need to have effective and efficient government, and we also need to have fair taxes. We don't need to take any more of the taxpayers' money than we absolutely have to do the core jobs that government should do.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you to all of the candidates for joining us tonight. We appreciate you taking the time for us and for putting yourselves forward to serve the people of Johnston County. It is oftentimes a thankless job, but very important, and we appreciate your service. Thank you so much to my co-moderator, Tamara Pierce, from the Johnston County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, as well as our timekeeper, Miss Joyce Harper, also from the Johnston County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta. A special shout out to Cheryl Keaton, who has been standing by all night with the questions as well. And thank you to the committee that was responsible for planning. Thank you to the viewers for joining us tonight. We hope that this forum has helped inform you or helped in your efforts to inform yourself as you make a decision on November 3rd. On behalf of the Junior Women's League of Smithfield, thank you to the Johnston County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and the League of Women Voters of Wake County for your assistance in hosting this forum. We hope that you all will join us for the Johnston County Board of Education Candidates Forum on Tuesday, September 15th at 7 p.m. here again live on Facebook and YouTube. We will leave you tonight with contact information for all of the Johnston County Board of Commissioners candidates should you have any additional questions for them. Thank you again so much for attending, and good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Oh, me.